Hi, I'm Richard Niles, and I'm on a crusade. As anyone who knows me is well aware, I feel very passionately about arrangers' rights. Musical arrangers have, since the dawn of the music business in the 1910s, suffered great injustice. But to help you understand this subject, let me explain. First, what is a musical arranger? Well, the composers of film or TV music, or songwriters, write the music, don't they? Well, not in all cases. Listen to this. Now that was Dancing in the Streets by Martha and the Vandellas. It was written by Marvin Gaye, William Stevenson, and Ivy Jo Hunter, right? Well, not exactly. A talented Motown arranger called Paul Reiser wrote the catchy brass melody at the beginning, the first thing you hear, the thing that brings you right into the song. He was paid $15. Now, he wrote many beautiful things for many Motown artists like the Supremes, the Temptations, Smokey Robinson, Stevie Wonder, Aretha Franklin, and he never received any royalties. Yes, royalties. Regular payments over long periods of time to help pay for things like rent and food. Now, when a piece of music is written or recorded for any purpose, composers, unless they're gifted arrangers such as Burt Bacharach or Henry Mancini or Dave Grusin, will have to hire an arranger, someone to shape that composition into a musical commercial product, and to tell the musicians what to play in the studio. Now, this is an unknown and unique process where the arranger is asked to perform a creative intervention. They not only write a musical score and parts for the individual musicians to play, but arrangers, based on their experience and expertise, contribute compositional elements such as reharmonization, additional melodies and counter melodies, interludes, introductions, endings, memorable background riffs, and rhythmic figures. All this is beyond the original melody and harmony provided by the composer. Now, because of those artistic musical choices, requiring many years of study and practice by the arranger, the original composition has been made more attractive to the public and therefore more commercial. Now, if the work arrangers did was not of great value, they would not have been paid to do it throughout the history of music. Oh, yes, paid. But if they're paid, what's the problem? Well, the problem is that the composer receives royalties for the usage of their music and can make hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars for a hit song or a film or a TV score, but the arranger is paid a modest one-off fee, a fee that might cover a week's rent, for making a significant contribution to a massively successful product. The arranger is forbidden from sharing in that success. Now, in film music, composers under the gun of production deadlines write the briefest of sketches sometimes and hand it to an arranger, who decides not only on the orchestration, what instruments play what, but composes melodies, counter melodies, and rhythmic feels that set the atmosphere of the film. In 1964, the American Federation of Musicians, the AFM, grudgingly gave performance royalties from the Sound Recording Special Payments Fund and the Film Musician Secondary Markets Fund to performers, musicians, singers, and conductors. The royalties come from the recording companies, film companies, TV companies. Now, musicians also receive royalties for their performances. Even orchestrators and music copyists receive royalties. Now, that's been allowed because those musicians and orchestrators and copyists couldn't make a claim to have composed anything. But the arranger, without whom there would be no music to orchestrate or copy or play, no catchy riffs, no beautiful counter melodies, is clearly a co-composer. Now, that idea could not be allowed. The arranger's work had to be considered work for hire. A fee is paid, and they must agree that acceptance of the fee is acceptance that they relinquish all claims of ownership. Now, because of this, arrangers have had to keep working job to job, year after year. A hit song they arranged 30 years ago, still paying royalties to named composers and performers, is just a grim reminder of how they have been ripped off. Now, if arrangers are to survive, the phone has to keep ringing with job offers. Now, crucial to their livelihood, to getting those jobs, is credit on their work. Unfortunately, arrangers have no legal guarantee of credit. They're reliant on film producers, record labels, and video game companies to generously give them that credit. That generosity is rarely seen. We're talking about intellectual property. I mean, it's unconstitutional, isn't it? The U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8, grants authors and creators the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. From the time a work is created in a fixed form, set in print or electronic manuscript, a sound recording, a computer software program, or any medium really, the copyright becomes the property of the author who created it. Publishers and composers have deliberately sought to disenfranchise arrangers from the dawn of publishing. They had to deal with the fact that arrangers are clearly writing music, music that was not in the original composition. They're adding significant material, those melodies and counter melodies and riffs. In order to stop arrangers ever making a claim to be co-composers, they created this legal principle that the arranger's work was a derivative work and work for hire, instead of admitting that they actually composed additional melodies. They said the arranger's work was just derived from the original work, only written in response to the original work. Therefore, the arranger's work is owned 100% by the original composers, not the creator mentioned in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8. So the arranger is merely doing work for hire here, work owned by the employer, not the creator. Sadly, the American Federation of Musicians, an organization created to protect musicians' rights, is complicit in this injustice. Signing an AFM contract, the arranger gives up all rights in their work. Now, I interviewed esteemed music lawyer Jay Cooper, who told me that the law is unreasonable and morally wrong. He told me, it's a crime that arrangers don't get royalties. They can ask, but if they do, they'll lose the job and never be hired again. And that's where the really serious problem is. Now, the law states that anyone in the room at a songwriting session becomes a co-writer, a copyright holder. So let's say Mary is in the room. She hears the original song idea from Sam and suggests an additional idea derived from the original song idea. It's regarded as obvious that Mary is a co-writer. Not so with the arranger, who may have come up with the hook of the record for the brass riff. I have seen my melodies printed in music folios of big hits that I've arranged. And on the top right-hand corner of the music, where it says, composer, I have never seen my name. Is it morally just that arrangers have no rights of ownership to their work? Look at history. Turn on the news. With money involved, morality never comes out the winner. Now, after all this, perhaps you're feeling something of the righteous indignation that my colleagues and I experience. What can be done about it, you say? Well, sadly, nothing. Performing rights organizations, publishers, and composers will challenge any attempt to take away even a small percentage of their earnings. Even if arrangers get the same royalties as performers, these special payments in secondary markets, and that's put into the AFM contract, it will legitimize the arranger as a real job and clarify that the job that they do is composing music. Well, publishers and composers will view this as the thin end of the wedge, a step towards diminishing their income. Good heavens! If arrangers are admitted to be creators of music, why should they not be due credit and royalties as co-composers? The music business wants arrangers to be invisible artists. They will continue to deny extra payments to arrangers by defining arrangers as non-performing musicians. A mechanic who is paid a one-off fee engaged by the composer, film company, producer to do what they see as a technical job. The problem is that arranging is not simply a technical job. Now, in my book here, you can read about the work of amazing talents such as Jack Nitzsche, George Martin, Arif Martin, Jimmy Haskell, Charles Colello, David Van de Pitt. Ann Dudley, Tom Bell, and Jeremy Lubbock. Now, as much as the music business wants to portray them as backroom technicians, arrangers are in fact masterful, unique, creative artists who have added so much to our capacity to be moved by music. Well, I'm still Richard Niles, and I'm still on my crusade, and thanks for listening. And if you like this sort of thing, listen more to
Radio Richard!